Should be us, Laura.
Okay. Morning, everybody. My name is Laura Mahoney, and you're very welcome to the event today. I'm the Head of Public Service Reform here in the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. And for people who aren't engaged in the our public service reform agenda, do pop over to ops.gov.ie and read what we're all about. So the sort of context for this pilot Future Tech Challenge that you're all here to hear about is our own innovation strategy that was published just at the end of last year, and that committed us to collaborating with industry in promoting the adoption of these emerging technologies across the public service, and it also mirrors commitments that have been made in the GovTech strategy and in the forthcoming AI strategy. So we're very excited to start work on this. Before we get going, I want to introduce you to Colin Flaherty. Colin, for people who've been connected to our innovation network, will remember Breda O'Brien. Breda's secondment ended earlier this year, and Colin has just joined us from Laois Offrey ETB, and he will be heading up our innovation team. So Colin, do you want to just say hello?
Yeah, just to say good morning, folks, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thanks so much. And I want to welcome onto the call all our colleagues from the organisations who are supporting us, from AWS, from Cisco and from IBM. And they've been fantastic to be so forthcoming, and it'll be great to hear about what you have to offer today as well. Also critically important to us, our partners in the IDA and in Enterprise Ireland, and their mentoring role will be important between this moment, the launch, and of course the final events in the early autumn. And our focus is really on you. It's on people bringing the quality of their challenges and their case studies. And we really need your stories, your challenges, your problems, and your engagement. And we very much look forward to reading those applications shortly. My final thanks before I hand over is, of course, to Vinny. Vinny will sadly be leaving us soon when his secondment comes to an end, and he has been completely instrumental in bringing this idea to a reality. So thanks very much, Vinny, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks so much, Laura. Just as I'm getting this up and running, I just want to echo Laura's words and welcome Colin, Jade, Owen, Ailish and Claire to the team. I certainly hope you enjoy the secondment experience as much as I did. I've had a fantastic 2 years, and no doubt the team in situ will look after you just as well as I was looked after. So why everyone is here today, it's for the Future Tech Challenge information session. Hopefully this isn't the first time you've heard of the challenge. Hopefully you've had a chance to read over the guidelines, and maybe you're here today just to pick up on some of the finer details of the challenge and possibly enter a few questions. For anyone that does have any questions, please use the chat function or the Q&A function in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. After today, this webinar will be recorded, and we will create an FAQ afterwards as well, and we'll share that with everyone on our website. So please, the more questions you ask, the better that FAQ document will be. So just a little bit of background. I know Laura's already kind of touched this already, but the Future Tech Challenge, what is it? It's a collaboration between the public service and private sector actors to drive innovation and technology adoption in order to solve pressing public service challenges. This call will invite you, the public service bodies, to identify problems that you believe can be solved using a type of technology or a mixture of technologies provided by the 3 challenge sponsors that are graciously here with us today, and they will talk a little later about some of their offerings. Problems will be pitched in writing first, and then suitable challenges will be shortlisted for a final pitch event with technology and innovation leaders from the prize awarding bodies and also from government. This pilot initiative is being sponsored by AWS, Cisco and IBM, and each sponsor has agreed to provide up to the value of 100,000 for pitches that succeed to the final stage evaluation. Some of the priorities then I won't go over because Laura has already mentioned it, but it does look after priority 3 and 4 from the Public Service Innovation Strategy, which can be found on our website, and also the GovTech Action Plan, which recommends that we need to be kind of working in areas of technology adoption across ecosystem collaboration. So the idea of this challenge would be that we'd grow the use of technology delivery in government services to the citizen. So the challenge awards themselves then. So the prize sponsors have kindly offered awards in the value of work, material and product. in the following disciplines. So AWS are covering cloud technology, Cisco are looking after remote connectivity, and IBM are artificial intelligence. Now, these are not exhaustive lists, but the three companies, we'll talk about them in a little further detail just after this presentation. So I just do want to stress that the value of each prize is capped at an upper threshold of 100,000. So that's not to the value of 100,000. That's not a cash prize of 100,000. It's to the value of work, product, or material. So that is an important point. This is very different to the Innovation Fund. This is work, product, or materials to the value of 100,000. So please do be cognizant of that when you're applying. Therefore, challenges obviously that you put forward should be within that threshold. So just some timelines for yourselves, just to highlight key dates. As I said previously, this is very different to the Innovation Fund, so please try park that to one side. This is a pilot challenge, so it'll have its own terms and conditions. So hopefully you can take note of some of these key dates. So obviously it was launched on the 22nd of June. Today we're having a recorded webinar and FAQ, which we will share after today's event. But most importantly, the 22nd of July at 12 o'clock is our application deadline. So effectively from 1 minute past 12 until the end of the 23rd of July, we'll be doing eligibility checks in-house. So first and foremost, we will check if you're a public service body. We'll check if you have applied for less than the threshold value and that you've picked the right category for your project. If you do have any questions in relation to which category you should pick, please do email us at govtech@per.gov.ie. I'll share that in the chat function. But if you are unsure as to which category you should pick, please do get in contact with us beforehand and we'll do our best to give you a steer. From the 26th to the 29th of July then, we will have a shortlisting panel put together. And in essence, they will distill your applications down into 3 projects for the 3 categories that were mentioned before. So hopefully on the 30th of July, we'll be calling 9 different project leads to notify them that they have been shortlisted. So we'll have 3 projects in cloud technology, 3 projects in remote connectivity, and 3 projects for artificial intelligence. From there then, if you're a project lead that has been shortlisted, you'll receive a mentor, and the idea behind this mentor then is that they will guide you for the next 2 months in order to prepare you for the pitch event, which will be in late September or early October, once we have details finalized. So the idea behind this event then will be a Dragon's Den style event where hopefully we'll be in possibly in a location, maybe up on stage, where the 3 projects for cloud technology will be up against each other, and then the judging panel on the day will decide which project will receive the 100,000 value in prize offering. Then in early October, the prize sponsor and the public service body will commence the work. They will enter into a memorandum of understanding between the 2 organizations, and from there then that relationship will be developed between yourselves. Naturally then, moving into 2022 then, we would like to have some interim reports and final reports, so please bear that in mind then when entering into this challenge. But effectively, that's what it is. You have right now until the 22nd of July to apply. There'll be a shortlisting process. Hopefully, if you're successful, then you'll receive a mentor, and then that mentor will prepare you for a final pitch event where hopefully you'll be successful in receiving this funding for your organization. So that is effectively it from me. And as I said, if there are any questions, please do put them to the chat, where we will put them to the panel here today. And if we can't get around to them, we will certainly add it to our frequently asked questions document, and then that should be circulated to everyone afterwards. So moving on now, I'd like to hand over to Mark Finlay from AWS, who's going to present to us today on some of the offerings available from AWS. So you're very welcome, Mark, and thank you so much.
Vinny, thank you very much for the introduction. I shall just double check that you can hear me and that you can see my slides.
Slides coming through clear, yeah, and hearing you loud and clear too.
Great, let me just do the swap on it. Cool, all right. So yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to present here this morning. As mentioned, my name is Mark Finlay. I'm Head of Public Sector for the Republic of Ireland at Amazon Web Services. 2 key things I'd like to get out of the presentation this morning. One, just to do a level set in terms of what cloud is, how we provide our services, and a sense of those services. And then secondly, really to talk about a number of customer case studies in terms of how we've helped customers across the public sector to meet the challenges or the big ideas that they're looking to work on within their organization. So in terms of understanding cloud and how we deliver our services, at a very basic level, cloud, from a definition, it's the on-demand delivery of IT services via the internet using a pay-as-you-go model. And we delivered these IT services from what we call our global regions. So we have 25 regions globally, and delighted to say one of those regions is actually here in Ireland. So a region is a geographic location. It's where we build our data centers. From a customer perspective, the customer always decides where their data is stored, and the customer always owns and controls their data. So you as the customer can just choose to store your data within the Ireland region or use services within the Ireland region. That data never leaves that region unless you decide to do so. Within each, so as I mentioned, we build our data centers in these regions. These data centers are clustered into availability zones. What these mean, it's basically providing high availability, reliability, and fault tolerance to our customers when they're building applications. So should there be a disruption in one of the availability zones, applications load balance across the other availability zones, ensuring that the end user is never impacted. From these regions, we have over 200 different services that we have available to our customers. So right across compute, storage, databases, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and very importantly, security. And these are very much seen as building blocks. They help our customers to build the applications that they want to deliver to market. So this is just one very simple example of how a customer has taken those building blocks. It's the HSE COVID Tracker app, working with partner Nearform, and develop the app to bring it to market. In terms of case studies, I think it's important to actually talk more about what our customers have achieved leveraging our services. And I'm going to focus on that for the rest of the 10 minutes. And I'm conscious that you kind of mentioned that there are over 200 different services for our customers to choose from. We bring in a working backwards methodology within the business. We really focus on what the challenges are or the ideas that our customers have and work back from that to identify, well, what's the most appropriate solution or technology to meet that customer need. And we work very closely with partners, and our customers work really closely with partners on achieving that. First example is not public sector, but certainly a household Irish name in terms of Ryanair. Ryanair were focused on backup and looking to move from physical tape infrastructure and switching to a cost-effective virtual tapes using Tape Gateway. And they were easily able to switch in less than 1 month and ultimately saving the business 65% from a cost perspective. Backup, storage, disaster recovery, they've been very kind of traditional and standard conversations we've been having with organizations for many years now. But it's probably taken on heightened significance as a result of the recent cybersecurity attacks that are taking place across the globe, not just here in Ireland. And actually, there's a nice example with Hackney County Council, who are leveraging AWS to address their cybersecurity challenges and moving more towards cloud adoption. And I have that link at the end of the presentation, so we'll share this deck afterwards and people can click on it. But ultimately, it's now more the focus on backup storage and disaster recovery is also helping public sector bodies to improve their cybersecurity risk posture. Moving on from Ryanair, if I can get the slides to move. There we go. So the previous example was about kind of storage of data. Imperial College London is very much about using data. So nearly every organization has vast quantities of data available to them and face the challenge of how to potentially bring that together from siloed data sets or just how to make best use of it. Imperial College London faced this particularly at the start of the pandemic when what they coined the infodemic, so much information being available to them that they really needed a way to be able to identify what information was of most value to them. So they developed a data lake that enabled clinicians and policymakers to find the best available evidence for better patient treatments. We're also seeing examples within Ireland, again, of organisations using or presenting data in an appropriate manner to support decision making. So Ordnance Survey Ireland is a really good example of that. In 2015, they launched GeoHive on AWS, which is easy access to publicly available spatial data. It gets over 200 million hits per month. So what that means from an OSI perspective is they have the confidence from a scalability and a reliability to rely on AWS. But really, in terms of their mission, it's developing a smarter nation. So it's helping businesses and policymakers to make appropriate decisions based on easily accessible spatial data. So a couple of examples around how organizations are working with us from a data perspective. This is an example of how an organization is working with us to engage with the end users of their services. So Redmore Health worked with the North Midlands NHS Trust to increase engagement with females from 45 to 60 to try and drive greater attendance at breast screening. So they leveraged communications channels through Facebook using chatbots and other technology, and ultimately they increased attendance by 13%. Within Ireland, again, we have examples of how organizations are using our services to better engage with their end user. The ISPCC is a really nice example of that. Their Childline platform is developed on AWS, and that brings together a contact center, web chat, and SMS services so that the volunteers have a single view of the person that they're engaging with so that they can be more effective and efficient in their engagement. And I've actually seen a 45 increase in online contacts since launching the platform, and they're able to give more interactive content and self-help information to users of the service, which within the digital era and understanding how that age group look to engage is becoming more and more important for them as an organization to communicate with their users. NHS Business Service Authority, I think, is a really interesting one. So they actually look to engage with AWS to leverage Amazon Connect, which is our cloud contact center. But really, from an organization perspective, there was three key things for them to achieve. First and foremost was actually, or part of it was very much employee retention and satisfaction. So they were able to remove 40% of calls that weren't really adding value to the end user. They were kind of basic repetitive calls and actually were very frustrating from a staff perspective that they weren't really able to add value. So by removing a large number of repetitive calls, staff retention and satisfaction improved. From a service perspective, they were able to change their service model. So they moved from a 9-to-5 business to a 24/7 business as a result of a significant number of these responses being standard and being able to automatically be answered through IVR and other solutions. And there was also significant cost savings. So they were able to save 650,000 on an annual basis as a result of leveraging Connect and our cloud contact center services. But we're also seeing users of Connect in Ireland. For example, Kerry County Council leveraged Amazon Connect, particularly at the start of the pandemic when vulnerable people were being asked to stay within their homes for a significant period of time. They wanted to make sure that they could engage with those people. So they set up Connect in a 48-hour period. They were able to then triage calls and direct people within the area to support the most vulnerable if they had a requirement and couldn't leave their home. From a Kerry County Council perspective, also it meant they could change the way they operate. So they call center operatives no longer needed to be actually in a physical call center. They could take the call on more or less any device and respond and manage that situation. One final one then in terms of examples, just to kind of try and create further thinking. So it's about predicting, services that may be needed in the future. And Transport for New South Wales is an organisation that has worked with us for a number of years, and they're leveraging our machine learning services to be able to predict patronage figures 48 hours in advance to help them understand what level of service they need to be providing in the New South Wales region in Australia. And we're seeing many other organisations that look at our services to help them with prediction or decision making. Examples with Finish Rail, where they use our technology to identify or predict which elements of the train fleet need to be identified for maintenance in advance of something happening. So they're being more proactive in their engagement and their outreach to identify and support. So support available. I'm conscious I'm up on my 10 minutes. Support available. We have proof of concept credits, professional services, solution architect mentoring, and I also think there's Vinny called out that there is mentoring available as part of the program. But even in the pre-shortlisting, if there is something you'd like to have a conversation on to get support and help us to help you respond to the initial application, more than happy to look to do that. Also partners play a really important part of the AWS community. So many of them that you'll be working with already. And from kind of anecdotal conversations, many are keen to help and support on it. And partners are often your trusted advisors in terms of who you go to look to engage from an IT perspective. So we have, as mentioned, the support services internally, but also, I think it would be a good idea to speak to some of the partners that you're already potentially engaged with. But ultimately, the message I would ask you to go away with is to think about the working backwards methodology. What are the challenges or big ideas that you have? Let's have a conversation and see how we can identify appropriate technologies or services to potentially help you meet those challenges. And on all of those slides, there's a link to each one of those case studies and some additional resources there in terms of Hackney County Council and their cyber attack and their move to cloud, the ISPCC example, and the general link on AWS and the Irish public sector. So again, thank you, and hopefully that was useful.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. Thanks so much, Mark. There are a number of questions here, but I might just save them until the end, because I am conscious that I'd like everyone to get a chance to get through the presentations. So we'll save that towards the end. But certainly one of the big things that stuck out for me was the foresight piece, and being able to, obviously no one has a crystal ball, so it's fantastic that you can leverage technologies there to maybe forecast in terms of the level of service that might be required down the line, or certainly the maintenance, stuff like that. So definitely we'll pick up further on that afterwards, but thanks a million. I'll now hand over to Brian Jordan from Cisco, who's going to basically explain some of the offerings for Cisco. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Brian Jordan's my name. I work in the CTO office. Absolutely delighted to support this challenge. This type of challenge is my work. We look at bleeding edge projects all of the time. So hopefully I'm going to give you some insight into Cisco, and you might know Cisco as kind of switches and routers and that kind of connectivity part, but I'm going to give you a much broader perspective on what we actually offer. So if we were to give a couple of words that might actually widen your view on Cisco, it's not just about connectivity for us, it's also about securing the whole digital infrastructure, whether that's the kind of endpoints or the network or the cloud. And also I'll give you a look into what we're doing around the automation of digital infrastructure. So over the last year, I've been involved in quite a lot of innovative projects, but if I was to characterize some of the things to think about, definitely everything has moved online, right? And we've seen this from even in justice or health, everything has moved to actual virtual delivery. And going with that, a lot of interfaces have gone kind of contactless. And when I get to the product section, you will see how to start using a Cisco portfolio products in actually delivering some of these new experiences. Also, everything's gone hybrid, as you know. On the work side, it's gone very distributed. I don't think there's a meeting now that's not either fully virtual or a hybrid kind of mixture of physical and virtual. Most learning has gone to kind of e-learning. We've seen a lot of projects using augmented reality now to enhance that experience. And then you get to the infrastructure. Like, the applications have changed, and most of our customers have looked at definitely moving to cloud, but definitely kind of hybrid application infrastructures, right? Where pieces of your application is on the private cloud, pieces are on the public cloud. You may be using other digital services that are delivered from the cloud. So what I wanted to get to is actually our product areas. And I'm going to slow down here because you may not have an appreciation of Cisco outside of the kind of switches and routers. But if we look at cybersecurity, we're the #1 cybersecurity vendor on the planet. So we've got end-to-end products. Whether you're looking at trying to stop ransomware attacks, like if you've ever heard of products like Cisco Umbrella, right, that's a primary product that helps in that area. But all of the products, whether we're looking at malware protection or firewalls or threat protection, there's a whole range there that all accumulate into a single user interface called SecureX. And we've probably got about 1,000 customers a month now looking at a single console approach to cybersecurity, how you take in all the alerts and actually make sense of them and have some kind of automatic response. So that's on the cybersecurity side, and there's plenty of information on our website on how to use those products. Another huge, fast-growing area of Cisco's product portfolio is application visibility. So what does that mean? If you take banks or an online application that's revenue generating or something that's mission critical, do you have the visibility to say and keep that online? And when it actually encounters problems, do you know how to chase down where the problem is? And this is quite difficult now when we work in a distributed world. Like, is it on the endpoint the issue is with the application? Is it with the network? Is it in the cloud? So we have a whole range of products, one called AppDynamics, right, which will not only look at all of the timings in your application, it can actually pinpoint lines in your code that are actually causing the application to slow down or fail. And we have another product called ThousandEyes, which will absolutely go and use artificial intelligence to hunt down where the problem is in the network. There's another product called Tetration, which will do the same in the data center. So think about application visibility. If you've got critical public services that you need to keep online, looking at some of those products will absolutely help you in terms of operational efficiency. You may know Cisco for collaboration solutions, from contact center to this product you're using, WebEx Events. But let me highlight some of the newer features that could have application areas. So within WebEx itself, noise reduction features. So if you wanted to use, have collaboration type solutions and actually cut out all the background noise, might be appropriate in a hospital type setting. There is that feature now rolled out within WebEx. Additional features would be language translation, so we can translate into 16 languages. So imagine a multicultural situation where you need a lot of different languages and the presenter is in English, but you need to translate it into French. So we see application of this technology a lot because we have a lot of different nationalities working in a lot of different environments that actually benefit from the language translation features. And also there's the annotation, which you might use in telemedicine settings where you want to take automated notes as the virtual sessions take place. Another one which I might highlight and a great extension that we put into WebEx is called WebEx Legislate. And that's where we've actually conformed to legal requirements when you're actually using virtual voting, right? So you can imagine councils or government meetings that actually need to conform from a legal perspective to a proper voting process. And all of that is now built into WebEx Legislate. On the IoT side, one of my favorites, we have a whole range of hardware and software products that pretty much enable you to use sensor solutions, right? Now we see this in smart manufacturing, we see it in smart buildings when we're trying to make the building much more efficient, where you're taking sensor information and actually routing it right through to your application. SASE would be a group of products which is Secure Access Service Edge. So one of the challenges as you go about re-architecting your applications is how you make a secure cloud on-ramp possible, that's fully authenticated and you're routed through to the right applications in the cloud. Another range of products we have is in mobility and wireless. You may know us obviously for Wi-Fi, and we Wi-Fi 6, but also everything in the 5G arena. So let me highlight one area, if you've never heard of open roaming and what you might do with open roaming. So we all know that when you join Wi-Fi networks, you have to go and authenticate yourself and actually put in the network password. This makes it frictionless, where you can actually join a network, but the authentication is happening in the background. And we see this, we've used it down in the City of London in Canary Wharf, where people can actually go around and auto-join different networks using open roaming. This possible use cases here might be in the digital hubs that are all being rolled out around Ireland, where you might be able to go into any single digital hub and get automatically authenticated. Of course, we have all of our traditional product sets, right? So anything to do with networking, whether it's wired or wireless or software-defined WAN. And then the final kind of product portfolio area would be in data center and cloud. And this is pretty much where we're bridging your private cloud and public cloud with products. Say you're developing microservice type applications on Kubernetes, and you want that to be able to manage that across your private and public cloud. So there's a whole set of products in there. So it's a very, very wide, extensive product portfolio, but we see use cases depending on what you're looking at. We've done a lot around smart manufacturing projects. We've done a lot in the circular economy. So an example on that would be putting together, say, sensorized tagging on products. So you want to track the product throughout the supply chain and actually record that. And you know, with circular economy type projects, we need to know where stuff is going if we're going to get it back and actually reuse the material. So we see this in fashion, and we see this in high value products. So that's the kind of product portfolio areas. So connect, secure, automate, anything to do with visibility or connection. You probably have a product in our portfolio that could help you in this. So combining that, Cisco doesn't do everything. So combining that with the offerings, I guess, of IBM and AWS here, I think there's lots of opportunities on many themes. Like if you look at what's happening in ports around the world where they're getting ready for autonomous traffic. If you look at fishing, where you're looking at how do I use these products to do sustainable fishing? Or if you're looking at the digital divide, how do I extend internet connectivity using kind of mesh networkers to people that don't have great connectivity? If you're looking at virtual healthcare, how do I put sensors in the home? I think this competition is just an opportunity for everybody to think differently on how public services are being delivered and see what product portfolios you can actually put together and construct something that's very innovative. In terms of support, the best way, you can obviously go to our public website. You can go to developer.cisco.com, which will give you some in-depth resources on how to program and use all of our product portfolio. But we have a lot of engineers sitting in Dublin, and the best way to engage with them is to call me or email me, and I'll discuss the topic with you and actually route you through to our architects. But hopefully, you know, we're here to brainstorm your idea with you. So, you know, right from today, we're open, we're ready for business to chat with you. And I wish you every luck in coming up with something that's going to be very transformational for public service. So with that, I'll hand back to you, Vinny. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Brian. And as someone that's currently getting renovations at the minute, I could definitely do with the noise cancelling offering that you have as well, because hopefully you can't hear someone coming through the roof above my head. So I'll definitely be touching base with you later on that one. So I'll come back with a few questions, as I said again, but I'd now like to hand over to Mark Renan from IBM. Mark has been kind of thrown in at the deep end. I know I've been dealing a lot with his colleague Rory most recently. So apologies, Mark, if you're not completely up to speed. I hope Rory has given you a nice handover. But I'll now, hopefully, if Mark is there, I will hand over to Mark and he'll go through some of the offerings for IBM.
Thanks, Vinny. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Let's turn on video and hopefully you're seeing my screen now.
Yep, perfect.
So good afternoon, everyone. As Vinny said, my name is Mark Bernane. I'm with the technical sales team for data and AI products in IBM in Ireland, and I've included Rory's name and email address there. He's leading the initiative from the IBM side, but he couldn't make the meeting today, unfortunately. So just as a kind of quick recap, so Vinny put a slide up showing that we were covering AI. And within that, we have a number of kind of subdisciplines of data science, machine learning, data governance, and data integration. I just realized I didn't start my video there. And as part of that, what I wanted to present to you today was a little bit about some of the tooling and the approach that we have around AI and how that all integrates together. So in the following couple of slides, I'm going to give you a quick overview of some of those technologies because as with many vendors, we have quite a wide offering. But we want to look at the technologies that support those disciplines. But to set the scene properly, I wanted to quickly mention what IBM refers to as the AI ladder. Because in our experience with customers around the world, we found that succeeding in the delivery of projects that involve data science and AI requires a thoughtful and well-architected approach. So each step on the journey is critical, and broadly at our level, we categorize them into about 4 stages. So the foundational stage is what we refer to as collect, and it's about making data of every type available for use, regardless of where it lives. And that's to enable the fact that data and the data sources we use are ever changing. So we don't mean putting the data all in one place, but we mean being able to reach it from a single location and virtualizing it so that we can work with it as if it were consolidated. The next phase in our approach is around organization and ensuring that the data you have created is trusted and it's ready for use. A lot of the time in data science is devoted to ensuring that models and algorithms are trustworthy. And the foundation of that is ensuring that you have trustworthy data. So this rung of the ladder is about governance, data protection, and business and regulatory compliance. The next phase is kind of where in a sense the magic happens, where a lot of the focus is in the analyze phase, and it's about finding insights in the data and empowering teams and organizations to make better and smarter decisions and building AI models that embody that knowledge. And the final phase of this, and it's kind of often overlooked after the analyze phase, is what we refer to as infuse. And this is actually taking the models and taking the insights that the data scientists have found and moving them from a development phase or from a lab phase into production and using those insights throughout your organization. So as I look at the slide, I just noticed a lot of some of these spellings are Americanized using the Z, but I can't amend some of these graphics, so I do apologize for that. So having covered those 4 steps of collect, organize, analyze, and infuse, what IBM bring to that is what we call Cloud Pak for Data, which is our platform for AI. So it's a single integrated platform that's designed to bring all of your data and AI capabilities into a unified set of workflows and governance capabilities that span all those phases of the cycle. So it runs, I'll mention this later, but it runs on a variety of platforms and a variety of capabilities. So we have complete flexibility about how and where you deploy these tools and these capabilities. So with that, I'm just going to go through a couple of select technologies that you might find useful. So what I wanted to do here was give you an idea of some of the things we have so that you might see, it might inspire an idea of where you might find some of these capabilities useful in projects that you want to pitch for the challenge. So the first thing I wanted to mention is a technology we called data virtualization, which many of our clients and partners have found extremely useful. And this reflects the collect aspect of the ladder. So while Cloudpak itself is capable of holding data and databases in its own right, most organizations have data distributed over many systems and many devices. So data virtualization is designed to enable a single view of all of those data sources, providing your project teams with a consistent and inclusive view of data. So literally, it's an ability to query almost any data source anywhere, but in a decentralized manner so that you're not occupying huge resources at a centralized location to access that data, with security and speed integral to the whole solution. The next thing I wanted to mention is a key component of Cloudpak called Watson Knowledge Catalog. And this underpins the governance capabilities of Cloudpak, which are integrated throughout the entire platform. So WKC is a data catalog, and it's designed to help data stewards, but also data consumers easily find and prepare and understand the data that they need. So imagine it as a one-stop shop where you can go and find data that has been curated, has been rated, has been validated and secured, that you can use then to build your projects. Again, about developing that trust in your data and ensuring that the solutions you develop are based on reliable data. And as well as those governance functions, it's also about making sure that it also provides capabilities around data quality, active policy management in terms of who can look at data, who can't, and also an ability to protect and govern the sensitive data, whether it's things like PPSNs or other personal information of individuals if that's required, trace the lineage of that data, where it came from, how it has been modified, and to manage any other sorts of things like data lakes, so that also that it's ready for use at scale in any of your AI projects. So if we move on from kind of having collected the data and governed the data, we can look at as an example of a tool of Watson Studio. So Watson Studio is the first port of call if you're kind of developing AI and data science projects in Cloudpak. It's a project-based tool, but it provides a range of tools that plug into Watson Studio that allows your teams to work with whatever tool they're comfortable with, whether it's best of breed open source tools such as Jupyter Notebooks or Studio, or tools such as IBM's SPSS or decision optimization tooling. It's a single this single platform provides a kind of what's the best way to put it? A single entry point into all of these AI tools that integrates with throughout the entire platform. So from it interacts with the governance catalog to find the data and interacts with the downstream tools to be able to build and deploy your models simply once they're built and ready to run. Now, a challenge in many projects is choosing a starting point. And if we take as one example, if you decide to go down the kind of core data science route of building data science models, one tool that can help is the Auto AI product component of Watson Studio. So it's fully integrated with Watson Studio. And what it does is you starting with the data set and then choosing a value that you want to predict. Auto AI generates candidate models customized for your predictive problem. The progression of the model training is displayed visually. The key evaluation metrics and the ranking can all be explored. And with a single click, then you can take a given model and you can deploy it into a process then that you can operate and manipulate. So the whole goal of Auto AI is to jumpstart the model development process and take something that might have taken weeks or months down to hours or days. And it's something that a lot of customers have found very useful just to get started quickly and to reduce the amount of time exploring different possibilities. In a less model-driven approach, another example of a tool included in the platform is Watson Assistant. So Watson Assistant is about providing smart chat. This might be reducing it a little bit. Some of my colleagues might disagree, but about producing kind of smarter chatbots. It's a tool that can provide real value to an organization and improve customer service drastically. So unlike simple question answer approach, Watson Assistant combined with some of the other AI technologies in the platform, like Watson Discovery and Watson some of the other text-to-speech and speech-to-text tools, to learn and to discover answers to customer questions that they can respond to interactively, either over phone or with through a web interface. And that can lead to a significant diversion of calls, addressing questions through the chatbot rather than speaking to a live operator, or it can significantly increase first contact resolution rates in that scenario. As an example of this, Fingal County Council actually used this technology last year to deploy a chatbot to address COVID questions from residents in the Fingal area about, for example, services they could access or people who might have to self-isolate, what services were available to them or volunteer services could help them. And it was mentioned by some of the other contributors, these are multilingual enabled, and Fingal County Council actually used both an English and an Oscoilega version of the chatbot itself. So to wrap things up a little bit, just to finish out on, once we've collected the data, we've organized the data, built a model. What's an open scale then is about productionizing the data. And what it does is essentially monitors the models and monitors the AI tools as they are deployed. So you can use it to make sure that the model is staying within the parameters that it's defined, so that it's not drifting too far. You can also use it to establish if there's bias in the model, or even what particular features of the model are driving a given decision. And in the context of explainable AI and a move towards moves around being able to explain from a data protection perspective and data governance about how decisions are made, this kind of capability is very, very important. So last thing, I know that's a lot of tools. So what I just wanted to give you a sense was how some of our other customers, what kind of areas that they are using these Cloudpak capabilities in. So these are a number of global customers. So you can see fields there like customer experience improvements, Associated Bank using data governance, very much using the catalog to drive and track how data is being used and how it's being generated. Standard Bank of South Africa were highly driven towards improving the amount of the throughput and the capabilities of their data science team. As more and more organizations deploy AI models, more and more business units look for them, so it increased efficiency. And a last one, an interesting one, because I know some of the team who worked on it, was Smukfest in Denmark, which is a huge music festival, a bit like Electric Picnic. And what they've been using this technology for is to ensure that the festival runs efficiently, and that they have stock and staff where they need it, where demand is in real time. So I'll throw two quick slides up for the recording. I won't really talk to them other than to say, I've shown you some of the capabilities in Cloudpak. There are many more. I mentioned we have databases, we have other toolings like dashboarding embedded in the product that you can use, and a more detailed view. A more detailed view there with the actual product names. And finally, just to mention that Cloudpak is available both as a software offering, as a cloud-hosted offering, as a combination of in between. So you can deploy it in a variety of modes. And as part of the challenge, we'll be happy to help you work in any of those modes. So with that, I'll hand back to Vinny. Sorry for running over.
No, absolutely not. Bang on time, Mark. And thanks so much. I know you had to step in at the 11th hour, so we really do appreciate you coming in and getting involved today. We've a range of questions in the chat feature here, so I might try to get through a few before our time is up. One very quick one, say from Mark in AWS. We've someone here just wondering, is the chatbot an AWS technology or is it hosted on AWS?
It's an AWS technology, so it's part of our AI portfolio. It's called Amazon Lex, and a lot of people will be familiar with it as it's part of the Alexa service that many people use in their homes, but it's also for written as well as voice commands.
Excellent. And then there was just another question here just asking, is there a risk that data stored in clouds could be used by third parties without our permission, I assume without their permission in the terms of this contract?
There is no risk. The customer always owns and controls the data. They control who has access to that data, how it's used, deleted, etc. So yeah, it always remains in the control of the customer.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Brian, I know you've answered the question there, but just for anyone that can't see the question, I'll just ask it to you here just so you can relay that answer again. So the question for Brian was, I see Cisco have entered the robot race. One thing that hospitals are doing around the world is using robots to deliver medicines around the wards. Is there something Cisco are involved in? Is this something Cisco are involved in or would sponsor even if they haven't fully developed the product themselves?
So the short answer is yes. And obviously whether this idea comes through this competition or we have other funds around innovation, right, for country digitization, it's called our CDA fund. So anything that's in the national interest, right, if there's a project idea, we will always assess them, and we do fund many of them. And it's more with our CSR hat on rather than a revenue hat, if that makes sense. Yeah, we want innovative projects to succeed. So we'll definitely evaluate them. If you send me email on any of those ideas, happy to explore them.
Thanks so much. And then another one for Brian. Can you integrate sensors with other service providers' dashboards?
Yeah, so the technologies, right, there's a lot of REST APIs and everything. So like we're not saying in this competition exclusively use Cisco dashboards that might be front-ending our products. Of course, everything's open, and we kind of welcome that approach, right? Because no company is the best in every area, so totally open to that.
Perfect. And then one for Philip. Someone here is just wondering, is the offering access to existing products and services, or is it to work with the company on novel and potentially commercially viable solutions?
Well, I suppose the answer to that is both. So existing solutions, and then I suppose if there is a problem or a challenge that needs to be solved that may require multiple solutions, or maybe tweaking a current solution to solve that will be considered then as part of the application process and with the sponsoring body.
Perfect. Then a more general question, just on terms of in relation to the 100,000 cap. So I know personally, if this was me, I definitely want to steer on this. So they're just wondering, if we don't have any idea of the price or value of the service being provided by the companies, then how can they ensure that they're under the value? So is there any, are potential applicants able to kind of reach out to you guys, maybe find out a ballpark? Because some people might have an idea, but they mightn't necessarily know the inner workings of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, big call out in terms of developing the applications, that there's support available there, that we're more than happy to engage and give some guidance, help understand the services that might apply for that particular challenge or idea, and also then what the costing associated with that service would be, to kind of give a sense that it meets the guidelines of the FTC.
Yeah, so maybe possibly if people wanted to channel their queries through govtech@per.gov.ie, possibly if you had an idea that you just needed to know more information about, some people might have a nugget of an idea, but they might necessarily know how this is plays out. If you want to kind of put your messages through to us, and then we'll redirect them then and try to get a better guide. Brian, did you want to come in on that?
And listen, totally open to helping people scope out the idea, price the idea, and even go into design thinking sessions with people, right? So if we're going to do something truly transformational in public service, it's going to need that kind of support, and we're here to give all and every bit of support people need. So yeah.
This is a kind of a broad question, but it's probably one of the types of things that people feel out there. So I'm struggling with persuading grant reviewers sometimes to fund healthcare projects which have a strong AI, ML, data analytics component. This is especially true when the target is public health sector. It's very gratifying to see examples such as the Hackney one. Any suggestions on making persuasive financial cases for investment in cloud healthcare analytics?
Well, I'd certainly add, Vinny, that in circumstances where you're making a pitch, and especially within government, I mean, what you want to do is to align with policy areas. So, I mean, if you make reference to the likes of the public service innovation strategy, you make reference to, it's not published yet, but we'll have a forthcoming AI strategy. If you make reference to things like the OGCIO's cloud note, so really, I suppose the shorthand on that is, our view on cloud is not sort of if, it's when, so I suppose if you make reference to those and you align with, I suppose, stated policy, you'll have a much greater chance, I think, of succeeding and I suppose securing grants.
And then just a very general question.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think, I completely agree with what Philip's just said there, but also I'd add that, we've kind of significant examples now of organizations globally using cloud from a healthcare perspective, whether that's Cerner, AstraZeneca, Moderna. Now, appreciate they're within the commercial sector, but there's significant learnings that can be shared with people that are looking at this area. And also we have a dedicated healthcare team that is working with public sector bodies across Europe. So there's insights that we love to put peer-to-peer conversations together. So if somebody wants to kind of go deeper on that, we can look to engage with the relevant bodies to help from other jurisdictions how they achieve that particular challenge.
And say, just out of curiosity then, is the Irish Public Service changing? Like, you in your own rights are all public service leads for your respective organizations. Like, do you see, is there an appetite out there for the use of tech within the public service? Like, are we behind, on par, ahead of other European countries?
I suppose from a cloud perspective, I definitely think there's appetite. There was a number of examples that I tried to bring through within the case studies that I talked to kind of give a sense that there's definitely usage of cloud within the Irish public sector, whether that's Ordnance Survey Ireland or Kerry County Council, or even the HSE from the COVID Tracker app perspective. Some of it has been driven as a result of the pandemic and that need to move and be more agile. So kind of there was almost a strong persuasive argument to move towards cloud. But overall, I would say, I think if you look at jurisdictions such as the UK, they are significantly ahead, and there is much road to travel to kind of be at the same level of adoption that exists in other markets. And we do need certain things to change, like having a more dedicated procurement framework or stronger data classification to support that overall adoption. But things like the OGCIO, the cloud adoption paper from 2019, and even kind of recent ministerial statements to encouraging organizations to move towards cloud, they're positive, and it's going in the right direction.
Perfect. And I suppose that kind of feeds nicely into like if we kind of, just one question kind of in there. No, that was just actually a that wasn't a question, it was a comment. Yeah, so again, this kind of brings us up towards the end of our time. I personally want to thank Mark, Brian and Mark. We're delighted to partner with you on this pilot project. As you've kind of shown in your presentations, case studies are so strong, and I certainly think if we're to kind of bridge that gap that you spoke about, Mark, I think if we could develop our own case studies from this pilot project, it will certainly go a long way to helping us bridge that gap. So for myself and the team, thanks so much for taking your time out of today to elaborate on your offerings. I certainly found it incredibly useful to kind of clarify in my own mind what is on offer, and I hope the audience can take some inspiration from these presentations and think about how they can use these to leverage them against the problems that they see in their own organizations. I would just like to remind people that the closing date is the 22nd of July at 12 noon, and we certainly look forward to receiving your applications. I will repeat, if you do have any questions, please send them to govtech@per.gov.ie, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, and we'll also turn all the questions from today into an FAQ and put them up on the website. But for now, thanks so much for logging in, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Vinny. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.